Hello everyone, so today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode, we saw the start and end of the Great Indian War, which ended in both of them being victorious, as we saw India taking land out of Persia as well as taking an exclave of the UAE, but we also did see Persia take the capital of Kazakhstan, forcing them to move it near the Caspian Sea, and we also saw them taking land out of Turkey as well as the Caucasus taking out some land, and the rest becoming a puppet from the LON, similar to what happened to Korea. Today's episode is also going to be very important. We're going to see a lot of political stuff happening. And the first thing that's going to happen is what is going to happen in Arabia. So, for those who don't know, the Arabian leader was assassinated before the war started, and well, they had to use the prime minister to the vice president to take orders and on what to do for the war, which they ended up not getting any land. Pretty sad for them. But he couldn't stay as a president as he wasn't that experienced. So it ended up being deciding that there would be a voting on what ideology they would be, and the top three were Democratic, which got number 3. Number 2, Communist. And finally, number 1, Fascist. The people, for some reason, have decided that their country should be a fascist. And as we know, every fascist country in the world is banned from ever joining the LON. So eventually, after the voting, 2 days later, Arabia was kicked out of the alliance. Now we only have 3 Security Council members. And one of these Security Council members, Prime Minister, is actually training with Mexico without the president actually knowing. Now, president isn't Prime Minister and Prime Minister. It's President and Prime Minister. Now, the president did end up firing him after he found out, but they still end up trading. So yeah. But now let's take a look at Texas. Texas is having somewhat of a civil war. But before we just get straight into the Civil War, we need to find out the backstory. Now, over here in Bulgaria and Ukraine, specifically in this area, there are tons of farmers in this area. Well, they were kicked out of the country, and well, they were forced into America, which later they were able to escape into what is Texas, and they ended up establishing themselves right around here. Now, their population started to get up a little bit. A lot, actually. It started to skyrocket. And it was very good for the Texans as their population started to grow. But the Texas Civil War finally started. And this new country is going to call themselves the Banana Republic. Now, it does sound silly for a country to be called the Banana Republic, but these farmers, the seeds they planted most were banana seeds. And yet they're still using tons of banana seeds. So they've decided to call themselves the Banana Republic, and they will be starting their civil war right over here. And where is present day, I think, San Antonio? So, yeah. So they're going to be doing this really fast, probably just due to the population. Now, more farmers start to join this civil war. Now, why are the farmers doing this? Because they want to establish their own country, and they don't want to be under the rule of Texas, which is starting to get influenced by communism, probably due to these guys. So, yeah. As well as fascism, which I think is probably by these guys. These guys are fascists. So, and soon, just a couple months into fighting, their capital will be captured, and the surrendering of Texas is finally over. And the peace treaty with the Banana Republic will be set. In the peace treaty, there were tons of arguments, but in the final peace treaty, this huge chunk of land, actually this kind of looks weird, funky, so I'm giving this piece. This piece of land is given to the Banana Republic. But now, let's take a look at India, because I didn't explain to it, but India has created an alliance with Tibet, has created an alliance with Tibet, Kazakhstan, Australia, and Bolivia. Now, this alliance is the Communist Alliance. So only Communist Alliance countries are allowed. Wait, I gotta do something real quick.
Yo, I need a towel.
Sorry, I had to do something. Okay, so let's go back. So, communism is trying to rise. Now, I did say I was going to end the Kenyan Civil War. And yep, it was ended. And, well, it was chosen that they will become a communist country. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, this is my favorite secret, bro.
Dude, I literally have never seen one before, like in person. I don't even know.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Admin actually spawned it in, and I let them start real quick.
But now let's take a look at Finland. Because Finland kind of wants to own St. Petersburg, which is located right here. Now, you might be wondering, actually, no, man, it's right here. And you might be wondering, why can't they just declare war? Well, it's because they're both part of the Yellow Wing. It's trying to prevent world wars, as well as major big wars, which could escalate into world war. So, you know what they do? They decide to sign a peace treaty to split St. Petersburg. Russia absolutely denies this, as this is one of their major cities, as they only have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they only have like 12 major cities, so kind of makes sense why they want to keep this one, because it's like their second biggest city. Well, big city technically. This Italy isn't that big of a city. But now Ukraine, because there's a border dispute, because the Caucasus claims this as their land, this little big chunk. But Ukraine claims it, as they've had this over like 1,000 years. Speaking of years, it is now the year 1912, and the Titanic is just sank right there. So yeah, poor Titanic. Actually, I think it's sank right here. So yeah, but during 1912, Afghanistan has gone through something, and that is that they are now communists. Yep, communism is starting to rise, especially in this region right here. And we could even see these guys starting to get influenced. I think Sri Lanka is influenced already. These guys are more of, a Chinese country. And want to know what India decides to do? Well, they decide to annex these countries. Now you're probably wondering, they can't just do that. Well, actually, they had an agreement, so they wouldn't get declared war on, and they don't want to do that happen because then they would probably never become a country ever again. So they wouldn't have to suffer through a war. So instead, they just decided, you know what, let's just get annexed. Now, about Sri Lanka, let's just pretend they're a puppet. As we can see, we don't have a lot of countries in the yellow when in Africa. The only major ones are really Dominican, Ethiopia, South Africa, Kenya. You could also call this country Kenya, and maybe Morocco. Tanzania, you could also say is a pretty big one, but I wouldn't really call them. Now, the other one is only really in Asia, because that's where it started. China and Russia were the ones that created it, and it started getting more influence. It started going to South. Actually, it hasn't even gone into Southeast Asia yet. Only really Vietnam has gotten it. And then it's due to Arabia's, which is now leaving, was kicked out recently. Their influence isn't as big. There are still some countries that could still influence this, like Ethiopia, maybe Northern Arabia, maybe Persia, but they don't really border that. So, Brazil still haven't been able to influence any of these countries. They have influenced Uruguay, but they haven't gotten them to join. They're fascist. They're not allowed. They're already in it. The Banana Republic, it for sure could get into this. California could for sure become a Security Council. America is probably gonna leave. They don't really like it. Mexico, they're also they want to become a Security Council. The fascists, the communists, they are having a conflict with California on who owns. I know who owns Hawaii. Canada wants Alaska. Now let's get into power rankings. Now, number one, China. Number one, China. Number two, Russia. Number three, India. Number four, Persia. Number five, Brazil. Number six, America. Number seven, California. Number 8, Canada. Number 9, Quebec. And finally, number 10 is probably Ukraine. But that's going to be the end of this episode. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.